There it is. There it is. Ah. Bonded in blood. You know, Siete and I, we known each other a long time. About 13 years. Yeah. Has to be 13 full years. About. And people like to say something about Siete, and they say, your cat. Is that your cat? That black one? And I say, he's not my cat. He's my friend. And some people have even gone further and like to think that maybe he's even my familiar. And it may be that I'm one of those people. Read some stories, and I think it was an H.P. Lovecraft story where there was some guy finding about his ancestry. That's how it always starts with H.P. Lovecraft. He's some guy that's curious and checking things out, maybe a detective, maybe just studying up, and then looking into their ancestry and seeing all these weird people around, and in the end they come to realize that he is one of those people. He was just raised outside of it. He's one of those people. And that's this one. Guy's going, moves back into his old uncle's house. It's always something like that. Great grandfathers or something like that. Yeah, move back into it and start reading through the shit, finding their writings, and next thing you know, there's something pounding on the wall, and they're going, ah. First they're scared, and this one was about a guy he was looking into witchcraft, and there were children, small children, going missing, and there were the bones of them in the walls. The guy found the bones of children in the walls when he started figuring all this shit out, and he had an enormous black cat. Black. In all the stories about his great uncle, who was a grand wizard, warlock type of dude, doing shit, stepping into the other realms and holding palaver, which actually means long, boring conversation, meaningless. But then all of a sudden, a big black cat, it says, and so he's there, and see. Black cat shows up for this guy too. He's like, what? Yeah, I'll let you read it. But what he said they had to say in the story about the black cat, the familiar, was that he had a spot on one of his hands, like on the back of his hand or something, that the black cat would draw blood, and he would come back for it, and he'd take blood meals off of that, and when it was time to open it up, he'd do it again. And there were years that I spent with Siete. Is not a big black cat, but people think he's big. He's just like, ah, and he's got the 7 toes on the right foot and 6 on the left paw, and so the thing is, it's not just that they're stupid, mutated feet. He has an opposable thumb on each paw. And he's got these claws. When you look at him, when he's just stretching and doing this, it's like a gauntlet, like an Iron Maiden that'd take your damn thumb clean off. If he were just a little bit bigger, I'm sure I would be missing a thumb by now. But when I was reading this story, and I come home and I said, hey, to Victoria, I said, and I don't have any wounds on my hands right now. And he latched way out and he tore it, and I said, there it is. And so that's Siete. And I watched him chase down a pit bull, and the pit bull had to be carried in its arms, in the owner's arms, to get by Siete. He was standing like the black cat under the full moon, just like the witch's cat. He is exactly like that. And he looks like he's bigger than a bobcat. And he's going, "Rah!" And he just, "Ah." And, so when I got home just now, he came walking around to where I was, and he said, "Ah." And I'm like, I thought maybe he wanted in, and so I opened the door. I opened the patio door like he likes it. I shut it, and I turned around, and he was just standing there looking at me. And he said, "Ah." And he told me he wanted me to come sit, because Victoria said it's scorching out there. He told me he wanted to come sit with him. And so I said, well, I better go sit with him. So I went out to him. He was lying in the shade, and I pet him for a good while, and he was just rubbing, and he started getting lovey-dovey with his ass in the air, taking those little nibbles and kind of touching you with his paws. And the first one, I know this, but what I realized was, I think lately that he gets enough affection from everybody in this house. It used to be just him and me for a while, and when I would get home from work at like 2 in the morning, he'd be there, and we'd sit out, and I'd sit down and pet him. But I figure everybody's petting him, I don't need to go pet him anymore. And I realized today he wanted me to, and I sparked up a cigarette, opened a can of beer, he was rubbing, I started petting him, and he gets, and he starts putting his paws on you, and then he puts his ass way up in the air and just, you know, he just gets really excited, and he's just so loving, and I saw it coming. I see it coming every time. It's rare that I'm able to stop, because I'm like, oh, he just likes it so much. And he reached out and he did another one of those little nibbles on my, and put his paws there, and I thought, okay, I get a second one this time. And he just went, ah! And he put his tooth clean into my damn thumb and bit down. It's a good thing he hadn't gotten that fingernail yet. But yeah, nothing on the back, I'm okay. But he had his claws clamped in around me. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I said, I'm like, oh no, because
that all just happened?
Every time I try to pet him for as long as it takes, he attacks me. Yes, I was sitting with Siete. We were having a good time. He missed the good old days when I sit and pet him until he attacked me. And so I went and sat and pet him for a while and pat him. I patted him. And then he's got it nice, with those gauntlets. And the claws are all fully formed. Every one of his toes is fully formed. He can grab a hold of you with those opposable thumbs with hooks screaming out of them. And so I'm like, and he's not letting go. And I said immediately, you know, I'm acting fast. I'm in trouble. He's going for my fucking, and so I pushed him back into the ground. I didn't slam him too hard. I just pushed him down enough to where he went, and I said, and came out, and he still got me a little bit. It was getting away, and he's, and then he rolls over and says, he got his blood meal.
Yeah, I was going to say, he got his taste of blood. Oh, better now.
So yeah, got to sit with Siete
He makes
today.
me nervous. He's never attacked me, but I'm very aware.
Twice.
I'm very careful.
I've walked away from him. One of them, when he took my fingernail, I was walking with my hand cupping the blood, and it was draining out over and onto the floor as I was trying to get to the bathroom. That's how serious he is. And that's a good familiar. Other people are afraid of him too. But yeah. And the other time I just walked down the road from where I saw him, and he was mad at me then. No, he had every right. He hadn't come home yet, but I saw him down the road out in front of that house at the gates. And I got up there and I pet him, and he attacked. He had every right to be mad at me. I left him behind. I didn't, though. I knew he was coming. And I walked all the way down the road, leaving a blood trail. It just serious. He loves me so much. And if only he were bigger, he could kill me. Siete. Kiss her. Or you've never kissed her before. Siete.